Good day to you all. Happy Tuesday morning. It's Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris, and we've got a lot of stuff to cover from Monday that includes, I believe, possibly as many as 9 players to consider for your fantasy basketball rosters. Also got a couple of watch list names to throw in there. A couple of guys trending down. Some injuries. I don't know how serious they are, but we may find out today. All that and more. Hit that like button and make sure to subscribe as you're settling in. I'm going to try to do a better job of reminding you guys mid-show on that as well, because maybe some of you haven't made up your minds yet. I don't know. I'm Dan Besbris over on Twitter, at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky, which had an eruption of new users yesterday. I never know when the hell that's going to happen, and I use it sometimes. Like, I try to get most of my social stuff over there, but it's never going to be all. So anyway, you got a couple different ways you can find me if you so desire. Let's dive straight into the card from yesterday, and we'll begin with a Clippers team that is actually one of our focal points today, because the Clippers continue to be without Kawhi Leonard and without Norman Powell. This is notable because the Clippers had a back-to-back Sunday, Monday, and coming into the week when we did our big weekend review show yesterday, there was a question kind of hanging over the Clippers of how injured are Norm and Kawhi. Specifically Kawhi Leonard, actually, because he played in that first game coming out of the All-Star break. Norm did not. That sucks, man. Hard to get hurt during the All-Star break, but Norman Powell somehow pulled it off. So we kind of knew that Norm was banged up. They've changed his designation to, I think, tendinopathy, which sounds worse to me than a knee bruise or whatever the hell it was before. Hopefully it won't be too long. The Kawhi one is, they're calling it foot right now, which is, again, like, we're kind of trying to put the pieces together on this and solve a puzzle as we go. All I can say is I don't know when they're going to be back. I'm hoping it's sooner than later. But in the meantime, we've seen this Kris Dunn surge happen for the Clippers. And I believe, at least in the near term, Kris Dunn needs to be on rosters. And it's not something that necessarily is going to stick, because it does kind of feel a little bit like it coincided with Norman Powell being out. Can't remember. Did Norm play in the last game before the All-Star break? Actually, good news is I have Norm and Kris Dunn on the same team, so I can find that out quickly. He did. Norman Powell played 46 minutes, actually, in that game. That's probably why his knee hurts. He scored 41 points. That was a whopper of a game, and now their Clippers are paying for it. Dunn actually played good minutes in that one. There was no Kawhi. When everybody's back, we know that Kris Dunn plays about 22, 23 minutes a game. It's not going to be a big number for him, and at that point, his value probably does dissipate outside of exclusively steals specialist hunting. What we've gotten more of right now in the short term, or short medium term, we don't know exactly how long it's going to be, is a bump up in rebounds, a bump up in scoring, and a bump up in assists. And then generally just more steals because he's playing more minutes. It's just a safer category because steals is so volatile. If a guy's playing 22 minutes, he might get 3 steals one day and 0 the next. If he's getting 33 minutes, odds are he's going to get you something. And usually, again, it's more of a best fit line, but usually if a guy's playing an extra 50% minutes, there's going to be, with steals, about an extra 50% of those just from being on the court. Rebounds in particular is very heavily typically tied to playing time. The other stuff, there's always correlation, but certain things correlate a little bit more. So with Dunn, we're seeing these games where he goes from 4 or 5 rebounds to 5 to 7 rebounds. We're seeing these games where the assists get up to 5 or 6 instead of 2 to 4. We're seeing the steals instead of 1, 2, or 3. Now he's at 3, 6, 1, 5, which balances out to a lot. You guys don't need me to do the math on that. Oh, you do want me to do the math? It's 15 steals over 4 games. It's a lot. And it's an unsustainably high number. I'm also fully aware of that. Like, even Dyson Daniels is not that high. But Kris Dunn has always been a really good steals dude. And if you give him full starters minutes, he's going to be around 2. That alone, by the way, is basically enough to get him on rosters. But right now, while the Clippers are down 2 starters and he's forced to play 30-plus minutes, you're getting enough other stuff also. So Kris Dunn is one of my favorite injury plays rolling right now. And his teammate also on the Clippers, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who kind of laid an egg in this ball game by all accounts. 13 points on 19 shots is not a particularly good ball game. And he's a guy that he's way over rostered. I really don't understand why Bogdanovic was still over 50% roster. He's been absolutely awful all season long, but he's actually probably worth a play in most formats while both Kawhi and Norm are out also. And you can see the last two ball games, he's taken 13 and 19 shots, an average of 16 shots a game. Even if he's playing poorly, is going to be around enough to get Bogey up to fantasy value. So those are your two guys on the Clippers. There's really not much on Detroit. This game was a game I wanted to focus on mostly because of the Clippers side, because we've got these two nice injury plays for Los Angeles, and I think we should exploit them while we can. As far as Detroit goes, no big surprises there. Asar Thompson, he does it with defensive stats and field goal percent. I still tend to believe that he's a bit overvalued by the fantasy populace at large because he's so athletic and he gets a lot of steals and blocks, and so that gets a lot of play, but he doesn't shoot the three. He's a bad foul shooter. There's a lot of stuff he doesn't do. But if he fits your mold, I just think it's a little bit more. I don't want to downplay it because he's been pretty good over the last, 3 weeks or so. Asar is like around number 75, but he's also shooting 66% over that stretch, which feels slightly unsustainable. And so I don't know. If you can get like a top 75 guy for Asar Thompson, I would do it. If you can't, then just roll along. A bunch of people picked up Dennis Schroeder after one good ball game the day before. That was a little nutty. He's been on this Detroit team for a few weeks, and that was the first time he's looked even borderline useful. So, yeah, I don't think you need to worry about that. I feel quite confident, actually, that you don't need to worry about that. Guys, this show is brought to you by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-timer, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. With every three-pointer and every hat trick and all around, they loop you back again. BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Please hang out with them. They've been amazing for us here as a partner on this show. Denver took out a little Lakers beatdown aggression on the Pacers. Jokic, big ball game. Aaron Gordon's been playing well. I can't solve Aaron Gordon this year. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't get him. He's fixed his free throw shooting, but he doesn't get any defensive stats anymore. And his rebounds and his passing are weird. I don't know. I really don't know what Aaron Gordon is. He's running hot right now, so he probably does belong on most rosters. But I also know, and we all know because we've watched it for a decade, that at some point, the other shoe's going to drop. And something weird is going to happen. But for now, fine. Play Gordon. I don't care. Start the starters. Russ, by the way, is one of the players I wanted to talk about. He looks like a drop these days. Something sort of clicked back out of whack for Westbrook ever since that injury. He was running really warm going into his injury. He was shooting, 50% for a while, and it seemed like everything was kind of coming up Millhouse. And since he's come back, and I know it's only been 3 games, but he's really looked bad. Like, truly bad since coming back. He has 12 turnovers in those 3 games to just 13 assists. His rebounds are meh, which his rebounds were never that great with this Nuggets team because Jokic is such a powerhouse there. But his free throws are always a disaster, and those haven't changed at all. He's 4 for 7 at the foul line. He's not shooting well. He's going to be over-rostered because he gets counting stats. He also, by the way, doesn't have a single defensive stat in those 3 games. And his minutes are low. Now, he was playing 25 to 30 minutes a game prior to getting hurt. He's more like 23 to 26 right now. Is it going to bounce back when he warms up? I mean, I guess it's a possibility, but can we wait on it? I think if you're in a Roto Games cap spot, you probably put him on your bench. If you're in head-to-head, he's really doing way more damage than he is good right now. I don't know how you roster him in a head-to-head league, especially if you're running up on the playoffs. He's burning you. Aaron Nesmith is on my watch list right now. He's had a couple of decent ball games. His minutes have been inconsistent, even as he's started to kind of come around lately. This is the first time he's cleared 30 minutes in a basketball game since January 29th. And remember, he missed basically like 3 months. He came back on January 16th. So it hasn't been a consistent upward trend either. He's just been running hot for 2 or 3 games in a row. So I don't think the reason that Nesmith is on my watch list is that we've seen this same damn play with Indiana a bazillion times, which is Rick Carlisle's going to play hot hands. Nesmith has the advantage of being a starter. So if he's a hot hand, he's probably going to get minutes a little bit easier than someone like, say, Ben Shepherd or Benedict Mathurin or something like that. But overall, all that does is raise the floor up to like 175 range. And while he's running warm, you could probably stream him in head-to-head. Indy has a good schedule coming up, but Roto, I'm not there with him yet. With Roto, Siakam, Halliburton, and Turner are the only players on Indy that I would consider playing. Nembhard is probably streamable in head-to-head if you're hunting field goal percent and assists, but he's not going to give you much more than that. Chicago's another kind of fun one, or not fun, depending on which players you have on this roster. Lonzo Ball left early, had a head laceration in this game. He joins Jalen Smith, Patrick Williams, Ayo Dosunmu. The list goes on and on of all the Bulls that are out right now. But who cares? This is the silly season. So, and Vooch, by the way, who missed this ball game. We play the hand we're dealt. And right now with Chicago, the hand we are dealt is Josh Giddey is going buck wild, so enjoy that. Kobe White is coming off the bench with a minutes cap that'll hopefully slowly inch its way back up because he'll be in really nice shape. And then you got all these other names dropping into the mix. So Buzelis, who you guys know I've been down on, 36 minutes changes things for him a lot. He took 17 shots in this game. Like, I don't care how limited his fantasy game is. If he's going to play mid-30s in minutes, I would now join the Buzelis freight train. I was not until yesterday. But with Vooch out and Patrick Williams out and then other guys leaving, they kind of almost have to play him 30-plus minutes a game. And I really believe that going forward, you probably see more than 3 rebounds because Giddey had 16. That's a little bit unusual. I know he's a good rebounding guard, but you'd figure some of those would fall to somebody else, like frickin' Zach Collins. You're the center, for goodness sake. So Buzelis, if we find out that all these guys are out again, I would be in on Buzelis for more of an injury play than anything else. If you have Lonzo, you should not have him on a head-to-head roster anyway because he sits out back-to-backs and he's not good enough to warrant missing all of those games before they even happen. Roto, he was playing 30 minutes a game. I know he was slumping, but I would probably just stick him on my bench if you have a games cap situation. Zach Collins is a 1-to-1 fill-in for Vucevic. If Vooch misses another game, you can go ahead and play Zach Collins. Dalen Terry had a really nice fantasy line in 21 minutes. And yes, you guys know I'm sort of circling around. We're waiting to get to the most interesting name on the team right now, which is Kevin Huerter. Yeah, I know. I can't believe I said it out loud either. But Huerter was very, very good yesterday, and he's been quite good in 2 games in a row now. He scored 37 points with 11 threes over those 2 games. He has 4 steals, and we've seen it before. Before the Kings brought in all those extra dudes, Huerter was the guy, and when he ran hot, he was like a top 70 dude. And right now, there just aren't that many guys that can stand in his way. Mostly because of injury. Like, as Kobe White does more, that'll probably put a little ding into Huerter. If Lonzo comes back in the next ball game, that'll probably put a little ding into him. But Ayo being out and Patrick Williams being out and obviously Levine being traded was a big part of all of this stuff because that's how Huerter ended up in this joint. 30-plus minutes a game on a team where there isn't the sort of like main chucker anymore. Huerter probably belongs on most rosters. Sounds idiotic, I know. And it feels idiotic to say. And the second that his minutes dip back below 30, I reserve the right to say, nope, I'm done now. But the minutes, that's just so many. He's going to get 10 shots up. This team plays an insane pace of basketball. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but Kevin Huerter is probably your ad of the night. Quentin Grimes and Guerschon Yabusele each left this ballgame for Philly early. It's not clear if that was related to the fact that they were down by almost 40 points at the time or if they're actually hurt. I really hope that Grimes is okay. I don't like that they called it knee soreness. Yabusele, this one was a weird one. It's listed as contact to both eyes. I didn't see it happen live. I'm assuming that means he got popped in the face, but that's a pretty weird designation. The big story, of course, is what we talked about on yesterday's show, that Joel Embiid might be done for the season. They're figuring it out right now. Yabusele obviously had a terrible ball game, but he is the fill-in there. Not a great one. Talked about it yesterday as well. He's like, best case scenario is like top 90. More reasonable is more like 100 to 125 for Yabusele. So he probably does belong on rosters, but maybe let's wait and see if he's healthy coming out of this, because if not, you might have a little Andre Drummond window. As I also mentioned on yesterday's show, the things I'm more excited about are, with Embiid being out, what does that mean for the usage of guys like Oubre and Paul George? And Maxey was already doing a lot, but Grimes falls into that mix as well. So let's kind of take Philly day by day. There's not a big add or drop coming out of this. Just Yabusele's probably going to end up being an add, and Grimes you're going to want to hold on to. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have no feel for the Brooklyn Nets, none whatsoever. So I'm going to maintain basically what I said before, which is Zaire Williams and Keon Johnson, to me, are guys I'm playing on the head-to-head side only, because I think you can sort of take the good with the bad, and it'll weigh itself out to something at least somewhat fantasy useful. And lately they've been pretty good, actually, so I shouldn't downplay it. Claxton, who might sit out their next ball game. I think it's because he racked up too many flagrant foul points. And Cam Johnson are the two guys you can play nightly. You also have now some schedule plays only, which is not like everyday head-to-head like Zaire and Keon on this team, but more, when the Nets have a bunch of games jammed together, you could probably trot out like a Killian Hayes as long as D'Lo's still out, Tyrese Martin, Trendon Watford, any of these guys, if they played like 3 times in 4 nights, Day'Ron Sharpe would probably be useful. And Sharpe might be useful in an even larger capacity if indeed Nick Claxton doesn't have his points rescinded, because then you'd assume that Sharpe is the guy that drops in to play 25, 26 minutes, and he'll probably miss a lot of free throws, but he's likely to get you quite a lot of rebounds in that amount of playing time. Washington, I think we've got a little bit of a better idea of what they're trying to do now between their young dudes and their old dudes. And I don't want to say the beauty of it, because there's nothing beautiful about what's going on with the Wizards these days. But the beauty of all of it is that the Wizards have lost so many games already this year that they can pretty much do anything down the stretch, and they will remain at the bottom of the heap. The Wizards got their 10th win of the season last night. They're basically 4 games worse than anybody else in the entire NBA. So if they accidentally win a couple of ball games, it's not that big of a deal. So you're going to see Middleton in non-back-to-backs. It looks pretty straightforward there. Same with Marcus Smart. And we should also not be surprised that Middleton was a team best plus 16 in this ball game in 26 minutes. I know he didn't do a ton, and he's going to be pretty deferential to the younger guys typically, but 25 minutes of even a low-usage Chris Middleton is probably worth a start. So, games cap. Keep him on your roster. Play him when he plays. Head-to-head, I think you can punt. You should have never drafted him anyway. And I told you 1,000 times during draft season, don't draft Chris Middleton in head-to-head leagues. I said it a million times. I hope you guys listened. Bilal Coulibaly finally had a better shooting game. I'm still sort of out on him in 9-category formats. I think if points league, he's probably still okay. Jordan Poole is a start. Richaun Holmes is an easy call when Alex Sarr is out. And Keyshawn George is the young guy that I'm sticking with on this team. I really like the well-roundedness of his fantasy game. Like, look at this one. 3 steals, 3 blocks, 2 threes, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. There's just so much to like about his fantasy potential. And then Bub Carrington, to me, is a schedule stream guy only. I'm just not into him. And Marcus Smart is nothing. Sorry, Marcus. I don't mean that you're nothing. I just mean for fantasy purposes, you're nothing. Miami would appear to be missing Jimmy Butler. It's finally kind of caught up with them a little bit. The Heat are 26-30. They are not falling out of the play-in because the teams behind them are so bad, but they need a full reboot there. Like this core just isn't going to do it. Adebayo and Hero and Wiggins and Khalil Ware. I think you can start all 4 of those guys without really thinking too much about it. Kyle Anderson had a bigger game here, but he was pretty much a no-show for like 3 games before that. Alec Burks came out of nowhere. Terry Rozier just didn't even play If you can figure out what the hell's going on with the rest of those guys, more power to you. Davion Mitchell, who at least is starting, is a schedule level guy. And then the Hawks did exactly what I warned you guys about, which is none of us has any idea which of the interchangeable wing pieces are going to be good on any given night. And it's almost never the same guy 2 days in a row. So Dyson Daniels, who had 7 damn steals in this game, pretty remarkable that he's really kept that up the entire season. He's number 16 now in 9-cat. 3.1 steals a game. How crazy is that? By the way, Dyson Daniels, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. He's shooting 47% now. The field goal number has been pretty steadily trending up for him. I don't know how, but he got better as the year went on. 9-cat's funny that way. Onyeka Okongwu, Trae Young. Those are the 3 guys you can obviously play on Atlanta. Everybody else, to me, is a schedule level play only. Clint Capella, schedule. Karis LeVert, schedule. George Niang, schedule. Mo G, barely schedule. Terrence Mann, barely schedule. Zachary Risachet, schedule. I've seen in most of my fantasy leagues all those guys on and off of rosters every 2 days, basically since the trade deadline. Guys, just accept the fact that none of them is going to be all that good. The one you're waiting on continues to be Vit Krejci. I think when he comes back, he'll probably kind of get, quote-unquote, first crack at it. He's probably the starting power forward for Mo G when he comes back, and I think Krejci plays 30 minutes pretty much every night, but he's not in there, and we're at a time of the season where you can't really sit on a guy, so when you hear something, you make your move. A rare meltdown by the Thunder in this ballgame. That doesn't happen very often, and a big win for the Timberwolves, who, boy, they were staring right down the barrel of back-to-back losses to OKC, and Minnesota is currently a half game up on the Mavericks for the play-in to get out of, they're tied with the Clippers, I should say, for the last playoff spot in the West. So this is a big win for Minnesota. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know who Terrence Shannon Jr. is. I had never heard of him before last night. And I know he's been playing a little bit more lately, so that's not really fair of me. He had a 29-minute game right before the All-Star break, but I don't think had he played all season before that? Oh, yeah, he played 1 game in December, and he played 1:40. I don't know who the hell this guy is. He was a late first-round pick this year by the Timberwolves, who's now getting playing time because half the Timberwolves are injured. If you pick him up, don't say I didn't warn you. As far as the Wolves go, they're hoping to get Dante DiVincenzo back very soon. Julius Randle, it sounds like, is also right around the corner. We don't really have a good report on Rudy Gobert. That's not to say that we don't have good news. We just don't have, any kind of good information. So, here's what you do. It's very this sort of Russian nesting doll type of fantasy basketball. Right now, if all of those guys continue to be out, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Anthony Edwards are all very easily playable. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a stream if you need some scoring. Mike Conley is generally a stream if you need a few assists. He wasn't very good in this ballgame. As guys come back, I think if DiVincenzo or Randall comes back, Walker and Conley both become very obvious no's to me. If Gobert and Randall come back, Naz Reid slides back to being more like a top 100 guy instead of a top 25 guy, but probably still playable. And obviously that wipes out Alexander Walker and Conley as well. But now we're hearing that Anthony Edwards is a little bit dinged up. So if he's out, then it kind of shakes up the snow globe again. So you kind of have to play the Wolves hour by hour right now. This was an OKC back-to-back, home and road, and they're off for a couple of days before they're in Los Angeles to start a 5-game and 7-day stretch, so things are about to get pretty hairy. We'll deal with that on Thursday. On the Wolves side, Isaiah Hartenstein left this ball game early. You can see it on your screen. Facial contusion. Got in the mug. I think he'll be okay relatively soon. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Chet Holmgren sat this ball game out, so the Thunder had to kind of lean a different direction. They sort of went, if you want to say, went small. Jalen Williams picked up some time. Oh, Jalen, excuse me. I should pronounce that a little bit better. Jalen Williams picked up a little extra playing time. Jalen Williams picked up a little extra time at big man spots. And then everything else was kind of a mix and match. The thing I want to point out is kind of the same thing that I don't want to say I was guessing, because we're all Like, we have ideas of what we're talking about here. First of all, Aaron Wiggins had a nice ball game. He's been scoring well for the better part of a month, but his other stuff is pretty damn limited. He doesn't get that many defensive stats. He doesn't hit many three-pointer. Well, I mean, when he gets hot, he'll hit some three-pointers. But actually, like, by and large, his threes lately have been buoyed by a 6-3 game and an 8-3 game, and then there was a 4 blended in there. He's a decent percentages dude. That's kind of what you're hunting if you pick him up. But the rebounds are all over the map. He doesn't pass very much either. So with Aaron Wiggins, like, if you're looking at the last month, his numbers look really good. If you're looking at the last 2 weeks, the numbers kind of look okay. And then if you're looking at the last week, they look good again because of this last game kind of inflating them almost artificially a little bit. To me, he's a specialist. It's just not the kind we're used to. Aaron Wiggins is a points and percentages specialist, which is going to get picked up in a lot of head-to-head formats because he scores. But a lot of these teams are also teams where people normally are like, yeah, I don't even really pay attention to the percentages. So he's a weird fantasy anomaly in that the public loves him, but most of his positive attributes are categories the public doesn't care about. It just took one category for them to pay attention, and it was scoring. So, like, I get why he's been added, but I don't get why the public did it, because it doesn't seem like the kind of player they'd normally like. So he's probably rostered in your league. He's more heavily rostered than you would expect, but he's got to be the category you're looking for. You need scoring on field goal percent. Like, he's a guy who can get you a couple of three-pointers without hurting your field goal percent. Okay. And I know that you guys might be bored of me and this nonsense by this point. I'm in the Alex Caruso camp right now. Who's almost the exact opposite of Aaron Wiggins lately. Alex Caruso is getting 5 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block over the last week. But he couldn't score to save his life. That's just not what Caruso's out there for. And if you look at his box from yesterday, he had 5 points in 24 minutes. Yeah, he took 8 shots, actually. That's pretty good. So normally if he hits, one more of those, then it's not that terrible of a game. But, like, 4 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and a 3-pointer. I love everything about those categories. But he's just not going to score. So Caruso is kind of like a 4-category specialist. At the guard spot, getting 4 or 5 rebounds is actually decent. And, the 4 or 5 assists is also pretty solid. Where Aaron Wiggins is a points and assists or a points and efficiency specialist, Caruso is the opposite of that. You know me, I tend to look at the guys that are doing the stats that are a little harder to find, but I can make a case for either of them. I just like that Caruso's finally starting to get playing time. He's 24 minutes in back-to-back ball games. I think some of that had to do with Hartenstein going out. But if you look at Caruso's last, basically 9 games, he's played in 8 of them. And we did this game yesterday. He's over 20 minutes in half, and he's over 18 minutes in 6 of the 8 games. And if he starts to shoot in the 40s from the field instead of the 20s, well, you got a stew on. Portland beat Utah. How long is this show taking? No, it's about the right amount of time. Portland beat Utah 114-112. Utah ran the JV team out there to make sure that they lost this game. For Portland, mostly little bits of good news here. Denny Avdia had a decent enough ball game despite Jeremy Grant being out there, and that solidifies our take, which is Avdia, you play him in head-to-head. Roto, you keep him on your bench until Jeremy's done. Jeremy Grant, hopefully you don't have him anywhere. If you do, you're always trying to sell. Tumani Kamara is a head-to-head play. Roto, I'm still kind of nervous about it. He's been very good lately. But I've seen too many of these hyper inefficient, weird down games. He's probably a play in every spot these days, but it's certainly head-to-head. Donovan Clingan, you can play everywhere. And it's nice to see him get 25 minutes here as well. And then Anthony Simons, you can play everywhere as well. Oh, and Scoot is an everyday play. Quietly, he's actually been pretty good lately. And I told you guys not to pick up Jabari Walker. Did you listen? I don't know, but I did tell you. Utah's a weird one. Every time Walker Kessler gets ruled out, I'm so caught up in how annoyed I am that he's getting ruled out that I forget to tell you guys to pick up Kyle Filipowski for a day. But Filipowski has really good fantasy potential. but he's very much a 1-to-1. Kessler's got to be out. And you can look at his game log and very easily spot the days that Walker Kessler didn't play. Yesterday, where Filipowski had 20 and 11 with 3 defensive stats and 4 threes. February 13th, he played 37 minutes, had 20 and 10. February 8th, I would bet my life. I don't even have to go. He had 13, 8, and 5. The defensive stats are not that great for Kyle, but he's a big man who can rebound. He can pass a little bit. He hits threes. His percentages are solid enough. 52 from the field. Free throw's not that great, I guess, but he didn't take that many. So just be aware. He's an ad when Kessler sits. I don't know when Bryce Sensabaugh is going to go big. I honestly forgot that KJ Martin was on this team. You're not adding him either. Isaiah Collier had a terrible game. I expect him to bounce back in the next one. Keontae George is obviously a play when a bunch of guys are out. I'm still not convinced that Keontae is going to be playable when Colin Sexton comes back, but they might just rotate who's in and who's out. So see how it goes. He's still a punt field goal, dude. We know that. And then Charlotte barely qualifies as an NBA team these days, but who cares because Jusuf Nurkic played 27 minutes here. Mark Williams was out, so I would expect Nurkic to play more like 17 or 18 minutes tonight when we assume that Mark is going to be back in there. But, I mean, you can look at the Charlotte schedule and just game this thing out. Their next back-to-back is March 7th and 8th. So one of those 2 games is going to be a Nurk alert. Their next back-to-back after that is March 2021. That'll be a Nurk alert in there. I don't think, well, I need to check myself. Nurk has actually been putting up decent numbers in 18 minutes, but I don't think that's quite sustainable because the assists are weirdly high and the rebounds are way high for 18 minutes. My expectation is that Nurk falls outside the top 100 in that smaller role, and he's going to be better utilized as a plug-and-play injury dude, but that's still something. He's still doing a hell of a lot more in Charlotte than he did in Phoenix. There's no real replacement for LaMelo when he likely sits out the second half of the back-to-back, but then you get Mark Williams back tonight, so that's, small bit of good news there. Moussa Diabate I don't think is worth holding on to. I've never been into the Nick Smith experience, and that probably settles you on Charlotte. For the Kings, Doug Christie hinted that there might be a change to the starting 5, and then there wasn't. That was mean. We all thought that Keon Ellis was going to replace, I don't know, like Malik Monk or something, and then it just didn't happen. So just start the starters. There's really nobody else to pay attention to on this Kings roster. No one else is playing enough. No one else is doing enough. 5 starters, 5 guys. That's it. Okay, we haven't done this in a little bit. Let's see if we can do it today. We're going to play an underdog card together. And I think it's been a couple of days since I actually put one together even for myself, let alone one that you guys can get involved with. First things first, sign up at UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN. You guys should know that by now because I've said it 1,000 times. OLDMAN, or if it's easier, the link is in the show description. It's like the second or third thing down in the description. That'll actually automatically put in our promo code for you so you don't have to remember to do it yourself. When you do that and you sign up, you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash, 50% deposit match, and it'll unlock a freebie. And guess what? They got a freebie going today also. Let's see what's this one. It's called a Gimme Pick. Luka goes head-to-head with the Mavs. What is a Gimme Pick token? A Gimme Pick token gives you the ability to change any standard projection for a single player to 0 from the original. This may only be used for 1 entry. Oh, yeah, I'm definitely doing this. Okay, so I've now applied this token to my pick. I got to go find the Luka game. Where are you, Lakers? So I think I'd like to, well, should I use it on Luka, right? Luka goes head to, oh, I can do it on anybody. Anybody in that game? All right, whatever. We'll do, how do I apply it? It must have applied to a pick, remove it or apply it to an eligible pick. How do I do that? I want to apply it. All right, well, now I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. I'm going to use the Gimme Pick. I click on those arrows. We're going to go all the way up. I want to go all the way to 0. Why can't I go to 0? I'll figure this out. All right, so you guys might not see me actually put the pick in, but I'm going to figure this out. So maybe we'll take somebody that's lower. I probably should have figured this out before I went on a podcast. Oh, well. How do I do it? Use this token. Projections with payout modifiers are not. Any winnings over the. I don't know how to do this. All right, I'll figure it out. So we're gonna do that. We'll do that on hopefully Luka, or maybe we'll figure somebody else out. It looks like it has to be something where you can't adjust their projection. So what would that be? Like LeBron first quarter points? No, that's not it either, is it? All right. It's going to take me a minute, and you guys are watching me look like an idiot. Other things to look at, if you want to go Luka, I think 31.5 points is really, really high. I think everybody just assumes that he's going to go completely crazy against the Mavs, but I'm not sure that it's going to go quite that same way. I might actually look at a Luka lower projection today, where he focuses really hard on making the right play as opposed to the one that's going to take some sort of revenge on his old team. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Other things you could look at today, San Antonio, I think is kind of interesting. Devin Vassell's been in a deep slump. I think you get pretty good odds here by taking a higher on Vassell, scoring some points against a team in New Orleans that doesn't really play much in the way of defense. Other things, if you look at the New Orleans side, Alvarado's looked really good lately. Kelly Olynyk has been doing a lot lately for the Pels. I think he'd be kind of a fun one to get in on. Bismack Biyombo for the Spurs, 12.5 point board assist feels like kind of a fun one for Biz. You don't even need him to score. You can just do it with rebounds. So I kind of like Biyombo. I kind of like Olynyk. I'm just going to throw them on my card here, and I'll come back around it later to actually put it in. What I'd like to do is apply my token, but I don't know how to do it because apparently I'm an idiot. Maybe I need more picks. Like, what happens if I scroll down to Dame? Is this going to be like a yes or no sort of thing? I don't know. I can't figure it out. All right. We'll figure it out after the fact. I'm not going to put this in, but at some point I'm going to do like a $2 or $3 card on this. Probably Olynyk. I like Biz. Other things that you could go to. Now, you guys have heard me talk about all these players. Let's get the show wrapped up. We've done enough here. Thanks, everybody. I forgot to tell you guys all to like, rate, and subscribe in the middle of the show. I screwed that up again today. The goal was to do that at like the 15-minute mark, but I'm an idiot. So hit the like button. Please do subscribe to Old Man Squad if you're just finding us or if you've been thinking about it or whatever. That's a big deal, and it helps us an awful lot. Follow me on Twitter at Dan Vespers, at Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. Back with you later today. I haven't decided how, but we're going to do another one at some point today. I'm sure of it. See you then.